What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Kickin with Kachi, where we highlight individuals really taking their industry by storm. And today, we have the honor, the pleasure, and distinction of sitting down with my homegirl, my bestie, Kyra Sinclair. Kyra Sinclair, who is the youngest graduate in her class from Tulane Law University. Wow. So obviously a lot to talk about in everything, right? Law, Black women in law, practicing law, studying, and doing all these things. But let's start from the beginning, right? I don't know if there's ever been a little Black girl in the hood that's been, I want to be a lawyer when I grow up. But was that you, or was this something that kind of found you along the way?
I think I didn't start off like this. I think, honestly, I wanted to be a doctor when I was younger, but I just knew I wanted to help people in some sort of capacity. So that's why I think I was like doctor. Right. Then I got older and started getting more in touch with, like, our community, growing up in New York and just seeing Black people like go to jail often. I think this is around the time of like a lot of the police brutality. It was just a lot of things I was getting in touch with. And after that, that's when I was like, let me look into law. And then when I got in high school, I started taking like a lot of criminal classes and law. And that's when I knew, like, literally in high school, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. So I just kind of followed through with it.
Either way, you was like, I know I'm going to be in school for a long time. I just got to know which one.
I got to know what it is, right? Doctor, lawyer, something. I'm helping somebody out.
And going specifically into criminal law, right? Because I believe personally, criminal defense lawyers have kind of a bad rep because they have this idea of you're keeping the criminals on the street or this and third. What sort of pushback do you have to that inside that perspective against criminal defense law and people that try and, help out those who are accused or, convicted of crimes?
Yeah. So honestly, what it is for me is that everybody deserves a fair chance. I feel like what the thing is like people are given like an adequate chance of being able to, defend themselves, even if they aren't guilty, whatever it may be. I think everybody still deserves that. So going into that, it's like, Black people specifically and people of color, we grow up in this community that's like, underprivileged, underrepresented. Right. It's just like, so for that, automatically, like, I learned a lot of things, like police are going to target those communities looking for trouble. And it's like, kind of, that's why we see those people being in the, in the system continuously, just because it's like, they're targeting us. And it's kind of like a target. So for me, what I did was like, I took a step back and looked at where I came from. I looked at my roots. I look at the people I'm surrounded by, and even just further, people I don't know. And I know for me, what it is just, I want to help people. I don't care what you did. I don't care how you did it. I just want to know, like, I gave you a fair shot as something you deserve. It's a constitutional right. Everybody deserves it. So I just want to make sure I helped you along every step of the way. And that's how I feel about it. I just feel like, coming from that community, it's good to give back to a community that you come from. So like, people being like yourself, like on the other end of things, I just want to make sure that they're being treated, fairly throughout their whole time throughout the justice system.
And I feel like it's interesting too, because we hear a lot of stories of people that are convicted of crimes and they don't even know their rights, or they're just thrown the book, they're thrown in jail, and they just have a defense lawyer that's saying, hey, you did it. The judge knows you did it. So why don't you just take whatever they're giving you and just, take your time, where, as you're saying, like, we have rights, right? As citizens, as people, even people in the legal system have rights. And a lot of people don't look into that. And then what do you want to speak to the impact, right? Because obviously, if you guys know Kyra, that's fine Kyra, fine gal Kyra. You wouldn't think that she's in books all day, she's in the library all day, she's in Cabo, she's in Puerto Rico, she's in Miami, right? But I believe that also has an impact in itself, right? Yeah. Like, me as an educator, I have tattoos, I have my Bronx accent, but the impact of seeing people that look like you and speak like you and come from the same community as you, how has that sort of affected your work as well, as you're interacting and people are seeing you as your full self, but still presenting them, representing them, and advocating for them on a law basis?
I think for me, it's people see me as like, wow, she does it all. Like, I can do it. And that's what I really like to see. And like, I like that I have that kind of, you know, reputation of knowing, like, even at school, like a lot of my friends at law school make jokes like, oh, you're back from Cabo this week. Like, you know, and it's like, at least you guys know, like, I have a good balance. Like, I can still have fun, have my personal life, but when it's time to handle business, it's time to handle business. Like, I never been the type of person that's like always all caught up in the books, have to sit here, study 24/7 and just books. And I've never been the type to be like, oh my God, I'm partying so much, I get distracted from my studies that I forgot to do this or I neglected something. I have such a good balance because I know it's like, I like to have fun, but at the end of the day, I know I have responsibilities to take care of. And it's not even just my responsibilities, but now that I'm representing people, I have other people's responsibilities that are way bigger than mine in my hands. So it's like, I know what I have to do. And it's kind of like one of those things that's in my head, like, I'm a fun person, but business is always going to come first, no matter what it is. So it's just a good impact to see, like, people tell me, like, it's really admiring that you can have the ability to do all of these things and still do law school the way we're all doing it. I'm like, I'm glad you guys know. I'm glad everybody knows.
And I would say, like, commending to you, kudos to you, and flowers to you for changing the face of what it looks like to be a professional, what it looks like to be professional, either in the firm, outside the firm, and just personality-wise, sociability-wise, because you would think that someone that has to go to law school, has to be in the books all day, is a quote-unquote nerd, but a nerd can look any different type of way. So what was your experience? Because you also come from being the youngest in your class. So what was the experience in, you know, coming into this new place? It's not an HBCU like Howard, right? But you're in New Orleans, so there's some diversity, there's some color out there, you know what I'm saying? But now you're the youngest and probably one of a minority again in your class. What was the experience in sort of pushing through that?
So when I came to New Orleans, it was actually ironic. I didn't intend to end up at school in New Orleans. It was like one of those things where I'm just applying everywhere and I'm just crazy. And, you know, I never really shared this, but I feel like this is a good time to share. I didn't really get into a lot of schools. I got into, I think, 2 schools out of like 13 I applied to.
Wow.
So I was really like sad. I was like, I don't get why. Like, I'm from Howard. Like, what do you like? I'm good. So I was just like, confused. So Loyola, that's where I started at, was Loyola in New Orleans. And that was the one school that accepted me and gave me money. The other school didn't give me money. So it was kind of like, well, let's lean towards this way. So got into Loyola, came down here, and I was just kind of in my head, like, I'm just going to the school off of force. And I kind of felt like I don't want to say an imposter, but it was a little bit of imposter syndrome. Because I'm sure some of these people probably got into a bunch of schools and I'm just here because it's like, I have to be here. I got into this. I was like feeling a type of way. And, you know, once I started realizing that Loyola, like, you know, Loyola got me to, you know, my stepping stones at Tulane, but I realized at that school, it was specifically if you wanted to stay in Louisiana and practice law in Louisiana, which I did not want to do. So I started picking up on that. I said, I got to transfer. So that's when I started, you know, reapplying again to all the same schools with my scores from my grades from Loyola. I did good my first semester, did good my second semester. I was like A's and B's, like I did good. Somebody should accept me. I went through the same process again. All the schools I applied to denied me again. I was like, is everybody
what is going on?
I don't think everybody's okay. Only school that didn't deny me was Tulane and Hofstra. I didn't want to go back home to New York.
Though.
Yep, both great schools. I said, you know, I don't want to have to move all the way back to New York. Tulane is literally 3 minutes from Loyola. Great school. And just to FYI, I didn't get into Tulane my first time around. That was one of the schools I applied to before, denied me the first time. So got in, I was like, I guess I'm going to Tulane. And I will say, once I got here, it kind of just took off for me. And after that, it was just like, you know, I came in, yes, it's only like a couple of us. It's about 15 of us that graduated in our class, people of color. However, that was not the environment at the school. Like, you know, I didn't feel like I didn't belong there. Like how I had my imposter syndrome at Loyola, I didn't have the imposter syndrome at Tulane because I kind of like got welcomed with open arms. I knew some people who went to the school from before because we did a summer internship together, like during our end of our first year. So I met some of them through like people, and you know, I was a new person of color, so they added me to the like Black Law group chat instantly. Like, hey, Kyra. So it was just kind of like welcome with open arms. I never got that feeling at Tulane that I was just like, I don't belong here, and I think that was the best thing for me because then after that, I kind of just took off at my Tulane career. I did all the activities that you could think of. I did more than people who's been there since the first year. And, you know, we could get into that if you want to ask that later, but it's like.
Of course. I mean, hey, of course I want to know about the shadowing, the editorials, the everything. I want to know everything.
Yeah. So like when I got there, I, you know, didn't know anybody. I was kind of shy. I was just taking classes. And then, you know.
I was shy. Oh my God.
I was shy. Me, shy. Crazy. But I was shy. I was like, I don't know these people. I don't want to like, you know, be my authentic self because, you know, where it comes from. So I was like, let me just calm down a little bit. Not too much. But yeah, so I came there and that was that. And then I wrote on to that was the first thing I did was writing onto a journal because I was like, I want to be on a journal that gets published every year that talks about something that I'm interested in. So I looked at all the journals and the only journal that like attracted to me was like the Journal of Law and Sexuality about sexual rights and stuff. So I was like, hey, let me do it. Wrote a good little thing. I was like, they picked me. They said, we like your writing. We like how you do things. I was like, okay, cool. That was number one. I was like, this is cool. So I did that. Not associated with journal. Then around Christmas time, we have this thing called a clinic. And that's what we do our whole third year of law school. And around Christmas time of your second year, you start applying to the clinics and they have a bunch like environmental, criminal justice, First Amendment, juvenile, just a whole bunch of different ones. So you can apply to whichever one you want, but it's very selective. They only pick about like 8 to 10 in each clinic. So everybody's almost applying, a whole 200 of us. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't do that good my first semester or two. They're not going to pick me. I applied to the juvenile one, got an interview. That man had me on the interview for about 2 hours. I was like, this is the longest I ever had in my life. But he loved me. And I was like, oh my God, that's so great. So got an email like 2 days later, you're in the clinic. I was like, I'm in clinic, woohoo. So that was that. Now here's where I will really say I recognized that I wasn't bragging about myself enough. Like in this moment was we had a class called trial advocacy. And that's just basically like trial. Like if you see Law and Order, it's just like lawyers in the courtroom arguing.
Right.
So everybody takes trial ad, and it was kind of like a class that everybody takes to learn. We had real lawyers who come in every week and teach us trial mechanics and all these things. So I'm in a class, I'm taking a class and I'm doing it. I get up there, like you read your like cross-examination, your direct examination, and I'm just like kind of like, you know, whatever. And we do it every week, every Thursday, you have to dress up. It was like a real thing. So I had this one girl in my class, and she's actually one of my good friends out of the school. One girl was in my group. Wasn't really that cool with her at that time, but she was Black also. So we kind of like, you know, and she texted me like, hey, you should try out for the mock trial team. And I was like, whoa, buddy, no, that's beyond my area. Like, I don't do public speaking. Absolutely not. And she was like, nah, like, you're really good. Like, you need to try out. Like, and I didn't know this, but she was the incoming president and chief justice of the trial team the next year. So she was trying to recruit me, but not do too much. I was like, oh, she's like, think about it. Like, you know, to sign up, it closes tomorrow at 5:00. Meanwhile, she texts me at like 8 p.m. the night before. I'm just like,
oh, nice. There's good application just going real quick. No biggie.
Okay. So I'm like, no, like I was dead set. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I was like, sorry. Woke up the next day, kind of like, well, let me check this out. Like, what could be so bad about it? So I kind of texted her. I was asking her a whole bunch of questions about how it would be. She's like, you know, you get to compete, you travel, you do this. I'm like, okay, cool. So I applied to do it, like, or signed up or whatever to do it. Then it's like, okay, your argue-on. So I had to come up with a whole cross-examine. I had to come up with a whole trial. Like I had to put on a fake trial with a partner or whatever. Audition for the team. And it was like at least 50, 60 people who auditioned. I was like in the top 5 who automatically were making it. Like they knew they wanted, they only picked 10 of us. So I said, okay, this is cool. Then when I actually started doing these things, like my third year, like the clinic with my juvenile client, doing the mock trial competitions. And, you know, I was on the BALSA team, which is like the Black Law Student Association. So we traveled, it was just all Black people like doing it together. And that kind of made me feel a little more like comfortable and at home with it. I was like, you know, look at us all, even though it's a competition, look at us all doing this thing together. Like we're powerful. So we had a team, you know, all of us, we did regionals. We went all the way to nationals to DC in March. We didn't win nationals, but the fact that we even were one of the schools that made it to nationals, I would say that's
ended up back in DC, right?
Ended up back in DC.
Full circle, nice.
I was at Park. But yeah, you know, so it was just like that. And then I had this client, you know, his case basically got dismissed, which was so great, like for me to see like my work and the motions I wrote for the judge and stood before the judge and argued, basically got my like little kitty client. I call him my kitty client because he is only 14. So I'm like, I got my kitty client. And he's so cute. And like, he still texts me, and like, you know, I took him out for his birthday to get some food. And it's just like, this was my first real client. Like, even though it was under supervision of a professor or whatever, I was like, I will never forget this meaningful experience. I was like, imagine me doing this like for the rest of my life. It just felt like good. So I know I've been rambling, but that's my whole like.
No, but I love that though. You know, like it spoke to a lot of important things. Like my next question was gonna be advice for law students or up and coming students. I want to be law students, but I believe that the advice was embedded in your journey as well. Like being not afraid to say, hey, the chips are dealt to me, the card dealt to me. Let me play my hand, right? Going to Loyola. I don't know how to say that. I'm an English major, but I can't say Loyola. Right. And then still saying, you know what, like, this is my stepping stone. This is not my destination. This is my stepping stone. And being okay with the fact of reapplying and going through the anxiety again of, will they accept me? Will I go there? And then going to this new place and then finding pockets of comfortability and safety, and also stretching your comfort zone a little bit and not being afraid to, you know, do things like that. Because then you get to travel. And then even in the case of like a juvenile 14-year-old, right? Like that's one of probably many cases you're gonna have in your whole life. But for him, that's his whole life. Right. At 14 years old, we probably know a lot of people that at 14 years old probably just didn't have that chance or didn't have the opportunity and is now massively messed up, right? So seeing that you as even just a student could have that impact, have that long-standing generation is amazing. And I think a lot of people who are a little frazzled, a little bit, as you said, imposter-ish of, are they in the right place? Are they doing the right thing? Is their work even being seen? I think with your story definitely gives them the hope of saying, hey, maybe I'm on the right path. I just need to stay down a little bit, keep doing my work.
You can do it, definitely.
So then I would also say, like, what sort of excites you now, right? Now that you've gone through law school, you've grown and stretched and gone out your comfort zone and really become who you are and flex your muscle. And now that you graduated, right? One, I got to ask about the Esquire. I've always wanted that my whole life. And now that I have someone in front of me, how does that work? Can I get an Esquire too? Can I be taking a Kachi Esquire? Or do I
mean, once you take the bar, you can get your Esquire.
I got to get the bar. Oh my God.
Until then, No, but I'm like really motivated just by, I think, honestly, just the whole journey itself motivates me further because it's like, I never thought this would be my journey. I never thought like I could be the person, like everybody like has a story and people come out successful. I'm like, that's just not me because I feel like it's like I never like maybe encountered anything that had to like put me through this. So I was like, wow. So I think the journey itself motivates me, and then let alone like now, like I'm starting a new chapter in my life. I think that's also really exciting. Like over the next like 2 months, it's just about to be a complete shift. Like I'm about to go from being a law student, doing just regular stuff, like taking trips when I want and doing this, to now you live in California, you have clients, you're an attorney, you need to meet people now in your new city. Like, it's just like, I'm about to be an adult, I'm about to pay bills. It's like, whoa. So it's like, all of that. I think just me seeing actually like me living out my dream right before my eyes. Right now I'm blinded because like I'm studying for this bar.
There's work going on, right?
Yeah, like it's too much. The bar has me messed up. I'm not thinking straight. But after this is done, I'll be like, wow, I am done. Like I remember driving to like different law schools to tour. Like it seems like just yesterday. Now I'm like, this is done. I just took the bar.
You're
like,
done, right?
It's crazy. It's crazy. I just think the journey itself and just knowing I did that like all by myself, like that's what makes it like you're that girl low key, like you are.
And I feel like it's like I said, back to the point of seeing Black women in the law, right? And I believe you are going to be a federal criminal defense attorney, working to that position at post bar, and then working as a paralegal. Even in that, right? Like people get arrested, they don't have like a criminal defense attorney. I see the TikTok, they make a lot of money. they make a lot of money from the clients that be paying, because there are some people that know the law that can get lawyers and have the money to get them off. But then the ones that truly need it are getting public defenders,
Right.
So you being, is that also something that is going to be as the federal criminal defense attorney umbrella? Like you also are going to be taking public defense cases?
So I'm actually going to work at the federal public defender. So it's like,
wow,
I'm literally like, that's where I'm going to be. And it's like, that's for people, like you said, who like can't afford representation. For me, it's really not about the money. I know that sounds so cliche. Everybody's like, oh, like, it's not about the money, but it really like isn't. Like I could have easily went into corporate, like a lot of my classmates. I'm not interested in corporate. I would not be happy at work. I would just be like boring. I want to go home. Versus I get up every day with a purpose and a drive to like, I'm going to help this client. I'm going to do this. Like I'm doing something I'm interested in. Criminal law is interesting. That's my favorite class. This. So it's like, I just do things for me. And I know money will always come to me. Success will always find me as long as I'm doing it with good intentions. So that's just how I kind of looked at it. And on top of that, as federal, I'm like, I'm representing people who's facing not regular crimes, better crimes. So I'm really like, I gotta do this for real. I have to know what I'm doing. But luckily, I worked at the federal public defender in Los Angeles last summer for my internship. And I think that's what kind of had my foot in the door. Like I knew I wanted to, because I did state first year, then I did federal last year. So once I did both, I was like, I kind of like them both. Don't get me wrong. But the federal for me was kind of like, this is a little more like a step up of like, I could be that person that like, when it's you down to the wire and it's this serious, I'm the person you could call. So I knew then I wanted to do it. So I was like, let me backdoor and go back, go back to that. And that's exactly kind of what happened. So yeah, it's going to be public defense. It's going to be federal level, people facing federal crimes in California. And that's really, it's crazy to say out loud. I'm like literally listening to myself like, woo. Wow, girl, that's a lot. Like,
you're like, how did I turn to Annalise Keating like this? How did I do that?
Literally, I'm Annalise Keating now. Like, well, not with all the other things.
Well, not actually getting off the criminals that should be in jail, but the people that should have a fair chance. And like I said, like I love this show because it brings back to earth because we're all working, we're all doing the thing, and and we're all striving and working. As we take a minute and have these 30-minute conversations, we realize in perspective, like, wow, hold on, like I've been doing a whole lot of fucking shit. Like I've been doing a lot. And you deserve to be commended for that and deserve to be applauded for that. And obviously, now that I'm just gonna throw that out there because I know my sister's gonna ask me, she wants to be a lawyer as well. So she's gonna ask me, and I know a bunch gonna ask me, are you a resource or can you be a resource for other people that want to go to law school or have tips or have any questions, or they just want to connect with you and network with you and, have your journey guide them as well?
Definitely. Y'all can reach out to me however you want to put it in the information in Kachi. You could do it, but 100% reach out to me. I'm always open to meeting new people, talking to new people, whatever it is. So you guys can definitely reach out because I know for me, I didn't feel like I had anybody I could reach out to that I related to, like skin color, being a female. And it's like, so I was just like going in blind. So I definitely would like to be a resource for people who feel like they don't have anybody. Definitely reach out.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And Kyra, honestly, thank you so much for coming in, talking about your journey and speaking to a lot of the underground stuff, right? A lot of the behind the scenes work that goes into graduating youngest in your class, going through mock trial when you have never done it before, writing for an editorial when you've never done it before, right? Going and defending people that society holistically doesn't have a fair shot. So all these things that you're doing is not only a motivation and I hope a purpose for you, but realizing that it's an inspiration for someone else looking just like you, or maybe not just look like you, but also empathize with your story as well.
Right. No, definitely. Well, thank you for having me. And like I said, anybody have any questions, your sister, whoever, anybody DMs you can send them my way. I'll be more than happy to help.
And you guys can check out my homegirl, Kyra, on Instagram at Fine. That's 3 E's. So you know it's she.Kyra, 2 A's at the end. And check out this interview at DC Voice on YouTube and Instagram. I'm Kachi.the-analyst on Instagram. You guys can hit me up for future interviews, past interviews, and updates on Kickin with Kachi. Thank you, Kyra, so much for the work that you're doing for our community, for yourself, for your legacy, and for all the legacies that you're impacting daily. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Toodles. Peace.